It was the Final Jeopardy moment that stopped fans cold, a brutal twist of fate that turned a winning answer into a losing one with a single keystroke. When Mail Shaw faced the most pivotal clue of the Tournament of Champions, no one expected a typo would cost him everything and spark one of the most talked about heartbreaks in Jeopardy history. Early in 2025, Jeopardy held its Tournament of Champions featuring heavy hitters like Adriana Harmeyer, Isaac Hirsch, former Survivor contestant Drew Bossel, fan favorite Drew Goins, and eventual winner Neelish Vinjamori. Although Mail Shaw played just 3 regular season games, he left enough of an impression to be invited to the wildcard tournament, which he would win and earn a spot in the quarterfinal match of the TOC. Facing off against Will Stewart and Ryan Manton, Shaw fell behind to 3rd place but looked to be in prime position once the Final Jeopardy clue was read. After all, he was the only contestant to know the Latin phrase needed to answer this clue. After Camillagate, a fire at Windsor Castle, and marriage problems in her family, Queen Elizabeth II dubbed 1992 this. Writing legibly and boldly, Shaw appeared confident that his response, Annus Horribilis, was correct, and at a glance, it looked correct, even close enough to fool some viewers. "I'm afraid we cannot accept that, Mail," Ken Jennings told a stunned Shaw. Stewart and Manton were on the right track, but their answers weren't nearly as close as Shaw's, who was literally 1 syllable away from a correct response and a win in the quarterfinal round. The acceptable answer would have been horribilis. Shaw wrote horribilis, forgetting to add an I after the B. Shaw looked beside himself, mouthing, "Oh my God," at the realization that this simple typo would prevent him from winning. Despite his visible disgust, Shaw later admitted in a Reddit comment that he understood the logic behind the ruling and accepted his loss. This ruling caused an uproar in the Jeopardy community, with many viewing this as a recent run of overly scrupulous judging. Since misspellings are usually allowed if spelled correctly phonetically, not permitting horribilis as a valid response seemed to be pulling hairs. Fans commenting on the YouTube upload of the Final Jeopardy response were livid, calling it a brutal ruling and an ill-suited category for contestants to transcribe answers in a foreign language. Everyone knows the theme music, but few can step up to the challenge and correctly answer questions during Final Jeopardy. Factoring in the additional caveat that answers must be spelled accurately and legible for judges to read, the last round of Jeopardy lives up to its intense stakes. If that wasn't enough, before a clue is even presented, players must calculate the ideal wager amount. If you're in the lead, this could prove to be the most consequential based on how risky or conservative you are with your gamble. As Cliff Clavin John Ratzenberger of Cheers learned in a fictional episode, you can't be foolish and wager everything just to impress the national audience. Although nothing in real life will ever live up to Cliff's response of, "Who are 3 people who have never been in my kitchen?" Final Jeopardy has produced a plethora of blunders throughout the years. In recent times, when judges have been extremely pedantic, we've seen more heartbreak than ever due to harsh rulings. Final Jeopardy responses are often correct in spirit, but even small misinterpretations can be costly. Contestant Sophie Wang's loss came from answering Hollywood when the clue was actually looking for the letter L, a mistake that sparked debate over the clue's clarity. These final round questions often go viral for their confusing phrasing or seemingly unfair difficulty. Jeopardy is unforgiving, and it's frustrating for those playing along at home and rooting for certain contestants like Mail Shaw. In a competition that features the brightest minds around, it only makes sense that Ken Jennings and his judges need to examine every word thoroughly down to each syllable. For over 5 decades, Jeopardy has been a staple of American television, captivating audiences with its intellectual rigor, iconic theme music, and the warm, commanding presence of its legendary host, Alex Trebek. It's a show that has seen countless memorable moments, from record-breaking winnings to dramatic upsets. Yet, among the many highs and lows in Jeopardy history, there is one particular final round that continues to haunt fans. A moment so shocking and unexpected that it broke the internet and left an indelible mark on the show's legacy. The Final Jeopardy question that still sends chills down the spine of viewers happened during an episode in 2020, a few months before Alex Trebek's passing. This game was supposed to be a routine episode of America's favorite trivia show, but it turned into a moment that would go viral and spark endless debates across social media, fan forums, and even news outlets. But what exactly made this Jeopardy! Moment so unforgettable? And why does it still resonate with viewers today? A shocking turn of events. The game in question was a seemingly ordinary episode, featuring three contestants who had been battling it out in an intense round of questions and answers. The first two rounds had been filled with clever answers, lightning-fast buzzes, and fierce competition. Everything was going as usual, but the final round would change everything. As the final question came up, the tension in the studio reached its peak. The category was one that all three contestants were familiar with: famous historical figures. With the stakes high, the question appeared on the screen, and the audience collectively held its breath. This man, who was born in the late 18th century, is often referred to as the father of the Constitution. At first glance, the question seemed straightforward. After all, the answer was Thomas Jefferson, right? Or perhaps James Madison? But to the shock of everyone watching, especially those familiar with Jeopardy, all three contestants wrote down incorrect responses. The first contestant, already in the lead, wrote Abraham Lincoln. The second contestant guessed George Washington, and the third contestant wrote John Adams. The tension in the studio was palpable. The moment the answers were revealed, the collective gasp of the studio audience was audible. It wasn't the fact that all the contestants had answered incorrectly that alone could have been chalked up to an off day. It was the fact that the correct answer was James Madison, the actual father of the Constitution. Yet, none of the contestants had written that answer. What followed was even more shocking. The contestant in the lead, despite answering incorrectly, still ended up winning the game due to a strategic wager on their Final Jeopardy bet. That outcome, combined with the absurdity of the incorrect answers, made this episode one for the history books. The internet reacts. A viral moment. In the era of social media, Jeopardy! Moments like these are destined to go viral, and this one certainly did. Fans immediately took to Twitter, Reddit, and Facebook expressing their disbelief. How could none of the contestants get such a straightforward question right? James Madison is a figure many people associate with the U.S. Constitution, and his legacy is well known in American history. For a Jeopardy! Contestant to miss such an obvious answer seemed, to some, almost unthinkable. But it wasn't just the incorrect answers that made this moment go viral. The larger-than-life reactions from fans, memes, and parodies began circulating within hours. Some fans expressed genuine confusion and even frustration. Others joked about the irony of such a monumental gaffe happening on a show that prides itself on being a test of knowledge and intellect. It was as if the Jeopardy! Gods had conspired to turn a simple trivia question into a cultural event. Many fans quickly dubbed this the final that broke the internet. And it wasn't long before the hashtags #JeopardyFail and #JamesMadison started trending. News outlets picked up the story, and before long, it was being discussed across the internet, from television talk shows to podcasts. Why it haunts fans. Years later, the haunting effect of this particular Jeopardy! Episode still lingers. But what is it about this moment that continues to resonate with fans, even after the dust has settled? 1. The unbelievable nature of the mistake. At its core, this Jeopardy! Final round is still difficult for many fans to understand. We live in an era where information is at our fingertips, where trivia has become a central part of pop culture, and where history lessons are more accessible than ever. In a game that rewards knowledge, how could all three contestants get the answer wrong? The mistake was so glaring that it sparked an existential question about the nature of knowledge itself. Jeopardy! Contestants are typically well-versed in a wide range of topics, from science to history to pop culture. To see them falter on a question about a historical figure that almost any viewer would recognize felt almost like an affront to the very idea of Jeopardy! Itself, a show that prides itself on testing the sharpest minds. 2. The pressure of the final round. Another aspect that has made this episode so haunting for fans is the inherent pressure of the Final Jeopardy! Round. It's the last chance for contestants to make a statement, to turn the tide of the game, and to cement their legacy. This final question, which seemed simple on the surface, represented the culmination of weeks of work and preparation. Yet, despite that pressure, the contestants faltered, unable to come up with the correct answer. For Jeopardy! Fans, this mistake symbolizes the precariousness of success in the game. Even the most seasoned contestants, who have won big and gone on incredible runs, are vulnerable in the final round. The fact that this particular error happened in the final moments only added to its emotional weight. 3. The Legacy of Alex Trebek. The episode aired during the final year of Alex Trebek's legendary run as host, which added another layer of significance. Trebek had become synonymous with Jeopardy, and the idea of his final years on the show had already created an emotional connection with fans. His dignified presence and wit had anchored the show for decades, and watching him navigate this unexpected twist in the game only made the episode feel even more poignant. Trebek's calm demeanor in the face of such an embarrassing moment was both reassuring and unsettling. His ability to remain composed in such a situation only underscored the weight of the mistake, as it was clear that he had seen many Jeopardy! Ups and downs over the years. 4. A lesson in humility. Finally, what makes this Jeopardy! Final so haunting is the lesson in humility it provides. Even the most knowledgeable individuals, under pressure, can make mistakes. This moment serves as a reminder that no one, no matter how intelligent or well-prepared, is immune to error. For fans, this gaffe became a humbling lesson that knowledge, while powerful, can sometimes fail us at the most unexpected times.